And we're live Thursday. Is it the 2nd of April? I'm losing days. Losing days times the week. 4:00 UK time as we speak at the moment. Today is going to be about compliance, legal stuff, the shitstorm that's taking place on Amazon at the moment. I have Andy Church. I've got Matt with me. I've got Jeff. I've got Paul Raferson. Guys, go around the room, starting with you, Andy. Do you want to give everyone a bit of background on yourself?
Sure. I'm Andy Church with Insight Quality Services. We're a third-party sourcing and inspection service provider.
Excellent. And Matt?
Yeah, Matty Silver. I'm Amazon seller 2.5 years. I'm currently in 10 Amazon, expanding to 12 Amazon markets worldwide.
Excellent. And over to you, Jeff.
All right. I'm Jeff Schick. I'm an attorney for Amazon sellers, been a seller since 2011, and we're currently helping sellers with a variety of suspensions and compliance issues related to COVID-19.
Excellent. Okay, Paul, a bit background on yourself.
Hi, I'm Paul. I'm a lawyer who helps Amazon sellers. Jeff and I are actually part of the same firm and have a pretty extensive Amazon practice covering lots of things. And with attorney generals reaching out to a number of our clients and just being slammed with that issue, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that as well as some other things today as part of the discussion.
Excellent. Guys, anyone out there who has questions, you want to start dropping those into the comment box for us to chew on. But let's start with the first thing. We'll start with you, Andy, first. So let's talk masks, sanitizers, and it's fucking crazy out there, isn't it, at the moment? Talk to me from your perspective.
Yeah, it is crazy. We are getting lots of requests to inspect masks. There's questions that Jeff will talk to about compliance, I believe. We can also talk about that. There's been a lot of ambiguity with the FDA in the last week or so around that. So, I mean, there's a lot of companies factories who have just started manufacturing masks in the last month, or probably started in February with the Chinese need, but then starting in the last month trying to export those to companies around the world, whether they're selling on Amazon or trying to get into healthcare systems. And there's a lot of poor quality product. So, I mean, we're in the factories inspecting, we're auditing factories for compliance and to see if they're legit. Are they really making it, or just a trading company? And, how long have they been making masks?
Yeah. Matt, over to you. You're in the eye of the storm at the moment. You're in New York. You sell masks yourself. You've been battling trying to get these masks and stuff into hospitals, etc. Where you are, you've been dealing with the politics and everything. What's going on for you today? I mean, your days are long at the moment. What's been going on with you?
Well, everybody's desperate for masks. There is a lot of product coming online right now. Tons of product is coming in. It seems to be getting through. Everybody wants the N95s. You know what I mean? Yeah. All government employees, everybody's paranoid to take anything less than N95 because of compliance issues. But the reality is there's not enough N95s to go around. So I'm actually working with the government around that. There's a lot of these KN95s going around. There seems to be a ton of that product. But what people don't realize, the FDA did put out compliance for that on the 24th, and they have compliance for what masks or emergency authorization use for importation. And it has the markets that are on there, which I don't think have any, masks from Australia, Brazil, Europe, Japan, Korea, and Mexico. Yeah. So the FDA is allowing those masks in the country, the disposable ones in the country, but China is not on that list, and there's a shitload of KN95s around. And actually, I reached out to my lab about the KN95, and the KN95s are not tested up to USA standard. So that's why the government does not want KN95s in the market, even though I know there is.
Yeah. Jeff, what are you seeing in terms of suspensions, etc.? What do people listening on the call need to watch out for?
So we've been helping a lot of sellers with price gouging suspensions. And price gouging is an interesting one because it's, from a legal perspective, most of the suspensions that people are accused of price gouging happened on March 5th and before any of the states passed the declarations for state of emergency. So technically they didn't legally price gouge in a lot of cases. And so there's so there's a lot of ambiguity over what is price gouging, what's an acceptable price, what's even considered essential varies from state to state. So we're helping sellers determine, is a box of macaroni and cheese considered essential in Florida because it's food and not essential in New York because it's crappy food. So you have to watch, look and see, when you're crossing, 50 states plus the District of Columbia, what, essentials, price listing and all that sort of stuff. And Amazon's just taking, a iron hammer and just knocking people down at even just the sight of there being potential for price gouging. So we're helping with that. And then also with the fake, we're seeing a lot of fake documentation around PPE equipment. And so making sure that sellers know where they're sourcing from is legitimate, that they're using good, good quality control companies to check things out, and inspections are crucial so that you're getting, masks that don't kill people in the process.
Makes sense. Paul, what's been going on with you? What can you pitch in?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Yeah, just to kind of hit on what Jeff said. Yeah, I see a lot of crazy things. I've been researching masks just because I knew, to some extent, for some sellers, masks, I have this concern that it's going to become like the fidget spinner, and that,
Oh, it will. Yeah. They'll be flush.
And I've been saying that since the start. If you really don't know what you're doing, when hospitals, you don't want to be selling hospitals, garbage masks. I'm seeing, again, questionable FDA documents that aren't really FDA documents. They just kind of have somebody put an FDA logo. I'm seeing websites with FDA's logo on it, which I think is a violation. Like, I don't think you're allowed to actually advertise the FDA's logo like on a product.
No.
Right. Yeah, and I'm seeing that. And then I saw, something even interesting is, KN95 does not mean kids N95 mask. The NIOSH standard, there is no kids 95. Like, they don't actually certify for children, at least according to the CDC's website. And I'm not the one who knows the most about that. But what I've been really buried with lately, over the last couple of days, just back to back to back, is Attorney General letters or subpoenas, actual subpoenas, government demands, asking sellers for information about their sales related to masks and hand sanitizer. And as Jeff mentioned about, mac and cheese, I'm hearing that, it may expand into peanut butter, and it's absolutely out of control what the governments are doing. I will say that from a legal perspective, I don't actually believe these price gouging laws will work. Like, I don't think the states actually have a strong case against Amazon sellers for price gouging. It doesn't affect your suspension. That's a whole nother story. But I think, when push comes to shove, the states are misinformed on how Amazon works. I had a long conversation with an AAG in Kentucky the other day about that. They clearly don't have a clue about Amazon. Yeah. And so there's factual misunderstandings. And then there's actually a constitutional law problem, which, me, I love my common law in the United States. And that's this, take the COVID-19 out of the equation. And let's just say this was a hurricane in Florida, state of emergency declared. You're selling in Florida a hammer for $20. Now, Florida could say you're price gouging. But the problem is when you sell on Amazon, you're not just selling to Florida, you're selling into a national market, and you don't have the ability to price commodities state by state. You have to price one price. And I think when the Florida price gouging law restricts you from selling a $20 hammer into the national economy, because there is no national price gouging law, these are all state by state laws. These laws have a tendency to what we call regulate extraterritorial commerce, which is a violation of our dormant commerce clause. So, I'm not saying, go out and price gouge sellers. Please, be careful, because the cost of defending yourself, we're trying to, suppress these. But, if you ever got into, a major legal battle with the government, it's expensive. But my point is that there are legal defenses out there, and you should really not go this alone. If you get a letter from the AG, you should talk to lawyers who really understand this stuff in Amazon. And get help, because, it's not as clear cut as the states make it seem to be, at least from what I can tell and from what I've read and looked at and researched.
Cool. I'm going to say some quick hellos and then we'll go through some of these questions here. So hello to Oksana, Abigail, welcome. Juan, welcome back. Kyle, Joshua, David, Owen's back as well. Isabella, Roger is here as well. Vishal's here. Hello, Tiffany Hepburn. And Herb is back, Ben Valance, Daniel Newman, so Jackie Vincent. So yeah, welcome to the show, guys. Okay, so quick question here. I've got, if we have a Chinese contact that is registered with NIOSH/CDC and FDA all verified, why isn't the FDA allowing N95 masks from China and assuming the above? And when would we need an FDA initial importer license to bring them into the US?
I can answer that.
Go for it.
First of all, NIOSH, there is a list of NIOSH approved batteries. There's only like maybe 30 companies that are approved to have the NIOSH certification. And to get the NIOSH certification, they fly to the factory in China and approve. And there's strict guidelines for that. So if you have that certification, we could verify that. And I would go to the NIOSH website of the they have the approval manufacturers. That's how you can certify. Those masks are allowed in. N95s are allowed in the country. It's the N95s that are not allowed. An N95 that has the official NIOSH certification on it, and I would match it with the website. But there are, they go to the factories in China and certify that, and there's a list of those manufacturers. So I say, I would check with that.
Yeah. So Ben Leonard says, my supplier in China is telling me now it's not possible to ship FPP, N95 or KN95 to the UK.
I'm finding that out now. I just shipped them up to the UK.
Andy, do you know anything about this? I think there's been something in the last 48 hours that the government shut down in China and have sent that message out. So I think this is quite new. Is anyone on top of this at the moment?
Well, I don't know about the Chinese. I haven't heard anything in the last 24 or 48 hours about China stopping. In the UK, Europe, the EN standard and CE standard, addresses FPP2 and FPP3 masks. So the EU isn't stopping importation, similar to the FDA issue with the KN95s. Now, if there's a China stop, that's something different, and I am not aware of that as up to this point.
I haven't heard about any China stop either. I've heard about some masks getting confiscated in the UK. I just shipped a whole bunch to the UK, and I will find out. But I know Italy, Germany, and France stopped Amazon from letting sellers sell in those markets, but I believe that's got cleared up now.
Yeah, I'm going to just quickly say thank you. I know you just sent a load over for my donation matching to the front line over here. So it's going to be interesting. I've got from donations, I've got this week in total about 5,000 from various different people that have donated. I'll thank them all after. They've not all arrived yet. So it's going to be interesting to see where they're coming through customers. Some are masks, some are KN95s, some are surgical masks, some of the masks are here. I will say a big thank you. So we're going to get these out to the front line. So it's going to be interesting when my phone starts to ring to see what's happening. And it's going to be like a game of ping pong to see if all these are coming in and what the problems are. So as soon as I know that, I'll document and explain to people all the issues that we may incur. But Matt, thank you for your donation there. Ben says, I'm not interested in selling these. These are just for family and friends. I know, Ben. It's all good. Some other questions here. Ben says, I don't want to profit from this.
Friends as a gift. If you list it as a gift, then that might get you out of the, and you're not bringing in a container or tens of thousands. I think if you just, as a gift, if you're getting 100 or 50, I think you should be okay.
Okay, so Roger's asked, Andy, are you familiar with UK EU law reference to PPE? How well is FDA recognized here?
Well, there's EN and CE standards for Europe and the UK that are applicable. So a lot of legitimate factories were exporting masks prior to the last couple of months to Europe with the CE standard. The EN standard is 149-2001 for FFP3s and 2s. That's the performance standard. The other standard is EN 529-2005. So if your factory doesn't know what those are, then most likely they didn't export those previously to the current crisis.
And by the way, it seems like every factory's making masks in China now. Everybody's making masks in China. Everybody's a mask factory.
Let me see what this one here. Can we cover the legalities of selling some of the previous restricted items on Amazon that no longer restricted, as well as legally speaking, what is price gouging? We kind of covered the price gouging part earlier. So
Yeah.
where is the current situation, Jeff, with selling on mask on any of the Amazon marketplace, like as of today? Because obviously it changes. What's happening?
So I've been dealing with the aftermath of selling masks
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. I haven't actually so most of my clients have actually all just pulled out of the masks because they don't want to risk an account suspension. So it seems to be one of those areas. Amazon cracked down pretty hard. You have to be, there's really strict requirements to even be allowed to sell because they were gated on certain like masks and hand sanitizers.
Yeah.
So if you're able to get around the gate, then there's really strict requirements. A lot of people are finding they can't even make a profit on it at all because Amazon's looking at you can buy it at Home Depot for $10, and so it should be available for sale on Amazon for $10, not taking into account, the 50% that goes right away to Amazon fees. So if you sell that box for $10 that you bought for $10 and you pay Amazon $5, then obviously you now have a negative $5 loss. So most people are sticking out of the PPE game right now just because it's too risky.
Yeah.
There's so much uncertainty as to the legal, what could go wrong. Now, and I think Tiffany's question though really referred to the restricted categories, like where people were not able to send in clothes and shoes. Like those were the restricted. I think that's what she was referring to.
Okay, then let's explore that then a little bit for Tiff. Yeah, because she's a regular joins the show, so let's get that one answered for her. Yeah.
Yeah. So now to speak to that, what we're seeing is Amazon's relaxing the restrictions on what's considered an essential good. So they're allowing you to send in the non-essential goods into FBA now. But it seems to be on a case-by-case basis. They're really choosing the ones that are getting things that will fly off the shelves quickly and have high turnover. So they don't want, they seem less interested in, the private label laundry detergent that's going to go in and have a bunch of PPC and take time to launch. And they're more interested in the Tide Pods going in because they know it's going to go off the shelf. So that seems to be what we're seeing is it's more major brands are unrestricted. And anything that's got a low sales rank or low sales history is being restricted.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to one of the previous questions, thank you very much for your help, guys. One more thing. Would a custom broker be able to assist and are knowledgeable on getting these imported properly?
I mean, a freight forwarder should know the guidelines. I mean,
yeah,
I'm definitely leaning on mine for Europe, but a good freight forwarder should, that's what they do. They should know what's getting stopped and what's not. And ask if they have gotten that product through before.
Yeah,
I think that would be the way to deal with that. Is that they've gotten that product through, or are they aware of any limitations on the product they're trying to get through?
Yeah,
because I think that's what the broker should be doing.
Okay, Juan has asked about: has anyone sourced the COVID-19 tests?
I've seen them, but they're like for they're selling them. But that's like medical shit. And
I wouldn't touch that. That is, those are.
That is just waiting for a cease and desist from the.
Yes, you got them. No.
Yeah, I mean, use them for your friends and family and see. But I mean, there. As far as I know, there isn't really a distinctive. There's so many different COVID-19 tests coming online for the FDA that it would just be.
There's a European one that the Chinese are making for Europe that they're trying to sell.
The Buy America one, right? I think that's
whatever. It's this real complicated fucking test they're trying to pass off with the whole test. Like you're gonna get a needle and take your stuff out, put it in a plasma bag, and send it to the thing.
Matt, listen, don't mince your words, yeah.
There's two major issues I see from the legal front with selling these at-home test kits. The first is that it's illegal under federal law because it's probably a regulated medical device, and so you're selling an unregulated medical device, which basically the penalties, while not as severe as drug trafficking, are still kind of up there for getting sued, potentially going to jail for that sort of a thing. But the other bigger issue as well is product liability. Not only are you probably not going to have any product liability insurance, but if you're selling a mask or, and it even goes to masks and hand sanitizers that are unregulated. If you're not doing proper testing and you sell something and somebody gets COVID-19 and dies and they used either your at-home test or your mask or your hand sanitizer and they can trace back that it was defective, then you've now opened up Pandora's box for any plaintiff's lawyer to make you look really bad on the stand and get a really good judgment against you.
And do you know what I've had to do? Can I just quickly step in here? You know the donation matching I've been mentioning. I got my lawyer in the UK to write a disclaimer purely because once I spoke to the NHS, I spoke to .gov, I spoke to some of the unions. It was like, how do we get these donations in? And they're like, it was so much red tape, it's almost impossible. Then I get messages from nurses saying, we've got to bleed these patients. We're not wearing masks, or they're wearing scarves around their face. They're going to baby wards and stuff like that. So I spoke to my legal guy and he said, Dan, look, you've got a situation here where we have to give a disclaimer before you send these masks to people, just to say, look, you use these masks at your own risk, because if they contract anything, it could come back on you. So that's been kind of tricky in that sense as well, just to donate, not to sell, but just to give someone to say, this is better than nothing. But by the way, can you tick this box on this disclaimer? And there's a box of 50 or whatever amount there is on their way to you. And that's the shame in the world that we're dealing with now, even on the donation front, you know?
Right.
Absolutely. But that's a risk every private labeler takes. And that's always the difference between, being a private label versus being, somebody who's selling 3M masks, right? I mean, you've got this giant corporation called 3M that stands between you, and that's who likely the target's going to be. But when it's you kind of importing from China, and bring these products in, you take on a ton of responsibility you may not even realize, and the product liability risk is high. And I will say, just for the COVID-19 test, just Jeff, out of curiosity, I mean, how suspended would you be if you could even get that listed on Amazon? I have to imagine Amazon's blocking that is even a possibility, but you'd be so suspended, right? I mean, it would just be
the listing will probably be suspended before the account, and then they'll determine if you try to go around Amazon systems to determine whether the account gets immediately suspended or 72-hour notice. And that's going to be, and that really will depend on, did you list it? Like some people I've seen have listed in like baby toys or whatever, or some random, shoe category to try to get that around Amazon's gate. And when they find evidence of that sort of wrongdoing, that's when they come down with the hammer and just absolutely own you for the suspension.
Okay, so we've covered masks, hand sanitizers. Talk to me about here. What problems have you seen here? Because obviously secondary to masks is hand sanitizers. When I spoke to the NHS here, they wasn't interested in masks. They were, because of people still touching their face. What they were interested in was visors, but they're just putting a massive order with the army in the UK. I can't remember exactly what department, but they put a massive order in, so that's been their main focus. So people are going to start to shift from one thing to another. But is so people are aware, so they don't just go out and see a pound note to try and source something related to some sort of virus. What's the state? Stay away from scrubs, gloves, everything. Yeah. So just keep out the way of any of this stuff, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I would say if you're not a professional, the people who are on this call who really understand the industry, who this is something that they do, you really shouldn't be in this space, because you don't want to be seen as, again, especially from the U.S. perspective, is interfering with the process right now, right? So, I mean, you want to let the professionals source and procure what they need to, and if you don't really have a place in this space and these are the essential goods, I don't recommend you get into it, because you could get burned in a number of ways, and it's really not the time to become an expert in this space. I think you really have to let the pros who know their industry well. So
it's even a global issue too, because from a PR perspective, I've got one client who was selling products that would probably not be deemed essential, but somebody thought that they were price gouging on it. It turned out that they wrote into, I can't remember which BBC, it's like the BBC London News. So whatever they call it there for the morning news show, it's like 7 a.m. morning news that would be for the UK. And they actually took a picture of my client's product and said, can you believe this person is profiting off of the coronavirus epidemic? And it was just by selling a product that people probably needed. But it ended up, it's across the pond over in the UK that they're making, an issue out of somebody in the United States selling something for what they perceive as to be too high of a price. And then the person gets suspended in the United States because someone from Amazon UK saw it and reported it back to Amazon Seattle.
Yeah.
And I'm going to speak quickly in defense of some of the, quote unquote, accused price gougers. I'm not talking about the people selling toilet paper for $700, but you think about, these were people, going to the Arkansas Walmart and pulling, 3M masks from the shelves and getting them into Amazon so that they could be bought by people in California and New York where they were needed. This is January we're talking. We're not talking March 15th. We're talking January, where, the president was still denying this was a problem. I know in a way, that was actually a positive thing, because they were actually getting the masks and the sanitizer to where it was needed to stop the disease, because that's where it was starting. There were no cases in Arkansas or Kentucky or wherever at that time. So, and again, we're not talking about people who were buying things for, $2 and selling them for 100 or 200, but, they were making a profit, but they have to go around, procure this stuff, get it to where it's needed to try to stop the spread of the disease. I mean, it was actually useful because you've got, as one client told me, they found a stockpile of hand sanitizer 90% off at Office Depot from back to school, just sitting there doing nothing. And they got it out there on Amazon and got it to where it needed to be. Did they make a few bucks? Absolutely. Did they completely, were they charging, $100 a bottle? No. But, it's the problem I have with this is just this whole attack on the ability to resell, and and the governments are just getting so crazy with it that it's really scaring the entire retail arbitrage community. Is so afraid to sell anything right now because they're like, is that price gouging? Is shoes price gouging? Is clothes price gouging? Is peanut butter? When that's a community that's used to buying things for 90% off and then getting four or five times return on it, if not 300. It's just that's what they do. So.
Yeah. So, question for you: the new fidget spinners. Can you see the market become awash with this? I mean, I get inbox 3, 4, 5 times a day, and people got confused with the difference between a donation and I'll sell it to you at cost plus 10%. Is the most common one I get in, right? Yeah. And so, and I look at this, and no disrespect, I'm seeing these Chinese guys. It's like, well, hold on a minute. What chance have you got to go into the level of going to a procurement of the government? If you're trying to flog to me, adding me as a friend on Facebook, calling me dear, and ask me if I want to do this, where is this going to go? So what's going to happen? Let's just say 3 months now. Matt's properly in the game here. This is his bread and butter. This is what he's been doing way before this will come along. That's his expertise. But what's happened to the pretenders to the crown, the guys that have sneaked in here trying to earn a pound note? There's all of these masks. There's all of this PPE in the market, and it can't go anywhere. Is it going to be in a landfill? What do you think should happen?
Well, I mean, first of all, in the market, I mean, it's a pain in the ass, but I do give kudos to Google and Facebook for not allowing any face mask sales. I mean, that's unbelievable. So that took out a huge chunk of all the wannabes. Even with Amazon, it's pretty incredible. Animal just total algo sweep. Anybody remotely with mask got taken down, and so I see people getting stuck with some masks. Definitely on the disposable. All clothing manufacturers, you're going to see the Tommy Hilfiger mask, the Gucci mask, the Supreme mask. That's coming. My Pillow's doing the mask. Major League Baseball's doing the mask. And nobody in Amazon can compete, with that level of factories. So I definitely see if you weren't in this game, there's a couple of people who are going to make a quick bucks. But some people, and as people realize, and some people are going to get screwed really bad with their own projects. But I definitely see it dying off from my end.
Yeah, Andy, let's bring you in here. Obviously, you've seen on an inspection level. This is probably a lot of what you're seeing at the moment, or your team in China, which you oversee. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the States, so I'm not on the ground. We're dealing with a lot of companies that are importing PPE products, and you mentioned sanitizer. So one of the issues that we're facing is we can inspect goods, but we're not able to get testing done. There's such a backlog on testing, especially on masks for filtration. It's 5 to 6 weeks. So, I mean, we're in the factories doing some verification of what we can do to make sure that the items, the masks are flame retardant, that they really truly are fluid resistant. I apologize, I'm working from home, so if the family's in the background.
Well, at least you know it's live, right?
Yeah. So, and then sanitizer is critical to confirm alcohol content. That's a big thing in the U.S. with the FDA or CDC recommending 75% alcohol content or more to kill the virus. Well, that means it it's not. It has to go by vessel, and so people are trying to get around that. And the verification as much as possible is critical. And we're limited. So is everybody. I mean, whether it's 3M making sure that their mask or the raw materials and the finished product is up to standard, they're facing the same backlogs as the labs, as the hospital that's trying to buy 1 million. So it's a challenge.
Yeah. So, but can you see 3 months from now, there's going to be a huge amount of masks in the landfill? Where is this going to go? Because I just think it's going to be swamped. Everyone's got them, but no one can distribute them.
I don't think the U.S. for sure isn't going to have a paradigm shift to be like Asia, where if somebody's sick, they start wearing a mask to protect others. So I think that once we get through the next couple of months in the U.S., so 2 months, that the demand for surgical masks, which has surged because my neighbors, my friends, we just imported 10,000 and gave them away to the retirement home and stuff like that. I think once we get through this period, that's going to cease. People aren't going to have any interest in wearing masks. So do they wind up in the landfill? I think the good quality, whether it's a KN95 that came in before, or it gets slipped in, or an N95, or an FFP3 mask or 2, those are going to be in the warehouses or stock shelves at the hospitals and the doctor's offices and be used. I think the surgical mask will get chucked.
I mean, the other interesting part, the online game is pretty much shut down. You can't sell that online. So people could still import them and they could sell them to the hospital, local communities. But for the most part, the disposable online game is shut down. I mean, I haven't had eBay or Walmart, but if you can't advertise on Google or Facebook or Amazon, it's pretty limited.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, if you think about it, is that what about there are people out there who want to protect their family, wear masks, but they can't buy them, but the market's awash with them? Is it going to be, I don't know, they're going to go to car boot sales and stuff? Do you know what I mean? To be able to grab these? Or is there going to be a black market appears for this? So it's sold on the street level.
All the big retail, I mean, we're dealing with retail too. They all want N95. So they're going to figure out a way to get it. That's happening. It's gold anywhere. So all the big retail chains are all over it, big time.
And do you see, like we've seen a bit of this in China, as things calm down, let's just say we get over the first part of the curve, people respect stay indoors. As life starts to return back to normality in some kind, do you think that people are going to regularly wear masks for a period of time, just for their own protection, for their own sanity?
From my end,
yeah,
here in New York City, that's the only way we're coming out of this.
Right.
Wearing a mask is the new normal.
Yeah.
I mean, China kind of has it, a control of it, but all the experts say, even there's no all clear here. Like, you have it, you're still going to have it. This thing is snowballing bigger than anybody expected. And the way to protect going forward is to protect the spit from your mouth and from people's mouth. So if we're going to congregate, I predict that all the local school boards will demand that kids wear masks in school.
Yeah.
In the fall.
Paul, your take on that?
My take on this. I think it's going to be a cultural shift for Americans to get to that point. I think, New York, it's obvious, whether Texans, or Alabamans or Floridians will get there. We'll see. But I mean, certainly, I think in the dense areas.
What you're saying is like they just put their big coat on and say, what's you moaning about? Because some people won't sit.
And I think there's this misconception that when it's hot outside, it doesn't spread. I think that southern states are less worried. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I think that, unless it comes from the federal government, which I don't see that happening, I think the recommendation will come. But again, the densely populated areas, the coastal cities like, Chicago as well, I think you're going to see, I do think you're going to see a cultural shift, especially where you have subways and where people are really cramped together in places. I think you're absolutely going to see a shift. So there'll be a need, but keep in mind that there are a lot of American companies that are now, 3M is pumping out was like 130 million a month. I mean, the president has an interest in getting masks into hospitals. He does want American-made masks. I think if you look at what the United States is, what is the response to this thing when this is kind of over? Is, in on one hand, we're lucky it's COVID-19 and not some, variation of an Ebola virus, because, we're basically getting a warning here that we need to be better prepared for this type of thing. So we're going to see a lot of changes. And I guarantee you there's going to be a lot more U.S. manufacturing of essential items like, for example, pharmaceuticals, which are made in a foreign country. So, I mean, if the disruptions were really bad in China or India, people wouldn't even be able to get their medicines right now. So the Department of Defense, I think, is going to be looking at all the what could have gone really wrong here scenarios. And we're going to see a lot of manufacturing being moved over to the U.S. So I think you're going to see a lot of mass manufacturing masks. You're going to see sourcing for those masks. And I think people are going to be getting them from there. So, I mean, I just don't think this is the time to dive in. If you've not been in the mask industry, this is not the place to, right. It's not the time.
Okay.
Because in this industry, you're swimming with sharks, and the two sharks are going to be the huge companies that already exist, the sellers that know what they're doing, and then the government and lawyers coming in to absolutely just destroy the people that don't know what they're doing. So it's going to be, and you probably won't be able to get insurance at this time either for that sort of stuff, because they know that it's high risk. They know that what happens when you don't.
Yeah. Well, I for my events, I can't get insurance covered for Seller Sessions Live or any events that I do under the coronavirus. It doesn't exist. Yeah, they have a list of viruses or diseases, as they call it, but they're not covering for that. And I think this is why there was an American company recently this year cancelled this year's event, not in the Amazon community, cancelled this year's event, and they have a strict refund policy. And they, instead of setting a new date, they cancelled it and kept the money. Because they can, which is like, that's going to kill their brand. But that's like, there's some bad actors out there. Let's go through some of these here. So Roger says, my understanding, if you're working 8 hours going from place to place like a courier, then you're going to need 1 respirator mask per day minimum. That's high consumption and less chance of overstock landfill. Jacob is saying, who is supplying all the elastics for these disposable masks? Maybe that's a question for Andy. Ben Leonard says, okay, so we can't import anything more than a surgical mask. Anyone know where to get a respiratory mask in the UK to give to frontline NHS workers? Let's have a chat after the call, Ben. Curious to Paul's thoughts on Amazon retail price gouging along with Chinese sellers having immunity, question mark.
Exactly.
This got all this PR for given states seller data, but won't even get more than a slap on the wrist. What's your take there?
Well, once again, this is why this is funny to me, because this reminds me of sales tax from, what I started, what got me into the Amazon space so many years ago, because again, it's Amazon quickly, sells out the sellers, gives your information to the states. I actually have a subpoena from one state that I'm convinced Amazon wrote it because the language is written like the BSA. It's obvious that it was written, and it's written in a way to make it sound like, you're definitely the problem, not us, Amazon. And again, it comes down to, this is Amazon's store, and the states just need to wake up to the reality that, Amazon needs to be responsible, because you're right. I mean, none of the sellers in China, they always act, with complete impunity. Like there's never any accountability for that. And Amazon always tries to do that. And so, that's going to be my mission with the state AGs as I get more and more of these cases, is going to be to, again, raise the constitutional issues about whether or not you can actually enforce a price gouging law on somebody who is selling into the national economy with no ability to set the price, but also to say that, really at the end of the day, it's not the seller's responsibility, it's Amazon's. They control, it's their store, as they told the antitrust committee under oath like 100 times. It is their store, and they have to take responsible. They could have put price ceilings on categories such as masks and sanitizer back in February if they wanted to, but they want to keep profiting. And as long as there's sellers in China willing to sell the stuff, or people in other countries willing to sell the stuff who absolutely cannot be held accountable for price gouging on Amazon, they're going to do that and then act like they really care by selling out the US sellers. So, it's just typical Amazon scumbag move, in my opinion.
Yeah. Talking about scumbag moves, what's this, you were saying about, it was off call, which I said I want to bring in. It's not quite on subject, but up till tomorrow. What's this about governmental loans in the US, which is a bit of a bait and switch?
Oh no, I mean it's not. It starts. I think the doors open tomorrow, and no, it's not a bait and switch. It's a good thing.
Oh, right. Okay.
I just what I worry about is that there are some people out there sort of selling services like, here, pay us $2,000 and we'll help you apply for this. It's basically the one that most people are talking about is the Paycheck Protection Program, or the PPP loan, which gives you the opportunity to basically get a potentially forgivable loan for, I think it's 2.5 times your payroll per employee, up to $100,000. And that includes you if you're a self-employed person, or if you're an employee of your own LLC, that can include your payroll. So, you can get a very simple loan. You just go straight to your bank and apply for it. Unlike typical SBA, loans where you can go to different lenders and get different rates, and sometimes it's advisable to have a broker. But this is a loan for 2.5 times your payroll. So if you have employees, or if you're self-employed and just need some money, it's an opportunity there. There's actually 2 loan programs. There's another one called the Emergency Disaster Loan, and a lot of people have been confusing this PPP loan with that one. And started the application process for the disaster loan, not realizing that wasn't the same as the PPP loan, which you have to go to your bank. And they're working on a way to convert the two. But those PPP loans open up starting tomorrow. If you have a company and you're employed, if you're basically an employee of a company, or if you have employees. If you're self-employed, I think the deadline, or the opening day, starts on the 10th. The key is you got to move quick. If you're eligible for these loans, move quick, because the money's going to dry up quick. I think it's $350 billion, but if you divide it by the number of people out there who need these loans, you've got to move quick and jump on that. So talk to your bank and take advantage of the loan if you can. And as long as you spend the proceeds on, I think it's 75% of the proceeds from these PPP loans, which are the forgivable ones. Meaning you don't have to pay it back. It's 75% payroll, and then 25% has to be like mortgage, utilities, or interest or rent, and basically rent, interest, utilities. But they want to see 75% payroll, and you've got to maintain your employees. So if they see your employee, the number of employees you have drop, the loan doesn't become as forgivable. But talk to your bank for more info. But definitely do it if you're eligible for it, because it's a great opportunity to get some cash into your business right now.
Yeah. So Jacob's saying here on the screen, the 10,000 forgivable loan SBA in the USA, goes on to say Canada is a 40,000 emergency loan with a 10,000 forgivable loan component to it. And
it's not a $10,000 loan. That's the $10,000 is the advance that you get on the if you've applied for the different loan program. That's the emergency. That's the emergency program. That's not the PPP loan. And that loan can be for various amounts, but they give you an initial $10,000. But you can't apply for both. And for most people, probably the better loan might be the PPP loan, especially if you have employees.
Well, this is where Bill McDowell's asking, where is the best place to apply for the PPP loan?
Well, I think he's talking about the IDL, isn't he? The $10,000 grant. That's already out of money. That opened up last Friday. But from what I'm hearing, that's already, it's not too late to apply, but it's probably already out of funds.
Yeah, I think that's the one. That's under the emergency disaster relief. You get the $10,000 grant, which you're right, does not have to be repaid. But again, has to be used for the same purposes: payroll, rent, mortgage, sick leave, other business. But if you're using it for payroll, then you can't. The thing is, you can actually apply for both, but you can't use them for the same purpose. But if you want the PPP loan, which is the one that could be more than $10,000, that you have to go to your bank. So just talk to your local bank. They should all be briefed on this stuff. So the information has been trickling down over the last few days, and the stimulus package was only passed, was it like Thursday afternoon last week. So we're all kind of figuring this out. But yeah, there is a difference. And my key point is just don't spend. The PPP loan is straightforward. You go to your bank. It's probably the loan you want, although it depends on your situation. But don't spend $2,000 or whatever for somebody to help you apply for the loan. That's the part that I think, Danny, you and I were talking about.
Yeah. Is that's the ambulance chasing component.
Yeah. There's no need to spend $2,000. we have folks in our firm that we have no affiliation with, like we don't get paid by them, but just as a resource for clients like who are SBA loan brokers, if you need like real, and non-SBA loan brokers, if you need real financing, those are the kind of people you need to talk to if you need, business loans. But, for these PPP loans and for the emergency loan, if I think if you're under 2 million, you really should be able to handle this on your own or working with your local bank. You do not need to pay an intermediary $2,000 for help with these loans. And that's the part that I thought was really predatory and that bothered me.
2,500 in New York. Some of the guys are charging 2,500.
2,500. If you look at the application for the PPP loan, it's like there's like 5 things to answer. I mean, it's like what's your payroll, multiply it by 2.5, check a bunch of boxes saying, this is what you agree to, and you're done. And again, it's only your bank can process it. So I don't know what $2,500 gets you. And that to me is what really ticked me off here. I'm not a lending expert. I don't pretend to be one on TV, but when I see people being taken advantage of, I just wanted to say something that, these loans, make sure you talk to the right kind of people to do these. Yeah,
that makes sense. I'm running out of questions to answer on this subject now. Does anyone want to shift? Is there anything that you guys want to cover, or if there's going to be any more questions in the comment box? So feel free to drop them there. Jeff, what else have you got?
This morning I was talking to Paul about is the SBA also has a program called 7A that's been around for years. And SBA 7A is for purchasing commercial real estate, and you can use it for other proceeds as well. But what we discovered this morning is it appears that as part of that there's now you can apply for loan forgiveness of an SBA loan for up to 6 months. And so that might be an even better option than the PPE loan, because for instance, with my business, we've got a commercial building that we rent out and it has an SBA loan on it, and our mortgage is $8,000 a month. And so 8 times 6 is 48 versus the RIN versus the the PPP loan, which would limit us to about $20,000 or $30,000. So you need to weigh all your options with your bank before you apply for one, just because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, makes sense. Paul, want to add anything here?
Just be careful out there. Like I said in the past, just there's a lot of great things out there to be sourcing. I wrote an article that got picked up by Ecom Cafe, Rich Meldner's blog about how things are changing, kind of what we were talking about in the very first one of these you did. And I mentioned something to be looking into would be like green screens for all the corporate professionals out there who now their man cave has to be the background for their meetings, and obviously they don't want to take down their Beers of the World posters and so, just keep looking as things change. The world will be different coming out of this virus. And so, rather than trying to get in on the mask, which is like the gold rush or the tulips try to pay attention to the market and where things are shifting, how the behavior is shifting. I would strongly recommend watching a lot of CNBC Bloomberg, because I find the news there, just seeing what's going on in the financial markets and what companies are moving, gives you a sense of how behaviors are changing over time, and just try to spend a lot of time thinking about that. Don't waste your time with the masks. I think it's a dangerous game. If it's not your game and you haven't figured it out by now is not the time. Yeah.
All right. This is Andy Shields. I know you very well, mate. That's a scam just waiting for happening. Has a couple of suppliers asking for 100% upfront because things are just picking up and they need to prioritize the production queue. Sounds fishy to me. What do you think, gents? I think stay well the fuck away from that one, mate.
I'm doing 100% upfront.
Huh?
I'm able to move in this climate because I've been sending 100% upfront.
Yeah, but you've got a regular client. This is someone who's probably fished him out on Facebook and calling him dear, so.
But I'm doing 100% upfront in my relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
And shaking and get ahead of everybody else who's rushing their product.
Yeah. Andy, would you like to add anything, my friend? Anything stand out for you that people should be careful of?
No, I think there's been great advice. The 100%, if you don't have somebody on the ground representing your interest, is scary. I think that you're an exception, Matt, but
relationship. I've been there, so I could do that because I have a deep relationship. But I wouldn't do it if I didn't have a deep relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
If somebody's reaching out to you and want 100%, you might as well just think you're giving them money and not going to get
You might as well
anything.
just get the money, take it out the back, sit down, set fire to it, and say thank you very much. Yeah.
Away.
No, I think the advice has been great from Paul and team. If you don't know about PPE, now is not the time to get into it.
Oh.
I mean, nobody's mentioned ethics, but I mean,
Yeah.
we're in a humanitarian crisis. So to be trying to take advantage when these masks should be getting their frontline healthcare workers, stay out.
Yeah. Agreed. Right. Before we go, I just want to quickly go over the remaining of this week's show. So tomorrow, Friday, the 3rd of April, listing optimization. We're going to compare what to do in 2020 versus 2019. That'd be Kevin King, Lee Rand Hirschgorn, and Amy Weiss will be joining me there. Saturday, 4th of April, we've got Women of Amazon Part 3. Sunday, the 5th of April, is going to be Mindset Sunday, Your Health is Your Wealth. And then on Monday, the 6th of April, we're going to do Sourcing in the Pandemic with Kian Gilzari. So I just want to go around the room. Andy, if people want to reach out, have any questions, what's the best way to get you?
Email andy.church@insight, insight-quality.com is my email. Twitter, Insight QS.
Excellent. Matt, do you want to give up any of your digits or you want to keep that secret?
I'm slammed right now. I can't anymore.
All right. Okay. Direct your questions to me. I'll pass them on to Matt. Jeff, best way to reach you?
Yeah, so email is probably one of the better ways right now, or Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger is usually faster. Email works too. Jeff@sellerbasics.com is the best one.
Superb. And Paul?
Paul@sellerbasics.com or Paul@ecomattorneys.com, however you guys, or Paul@onlinemerchantskill.com. And Jacob, just quick mention. Yeah, I think Paul's survey, Paul Barron set out a survey that's about what's going on and wants sellers to answer. I think that's really important. People do that survey and get that data. And then, as online merchant skilled person, I do want to take some of that information to Congress. I was just talking to the head of the congressional chair of the House Small Business Committee. So definitely check out what Jacob's writing about if you can, because that survey is important.
Right. Sounds good, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Audience, thank you for joining us. Thank you for everyone who's allowed us to post into the other groups to broadcast this out across the community. I appreciate you. We're here every day. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Stay home. Stay safe. Lots of love. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Y'all have a nice day.
Goodbye. Thanks.